What's happening, guys? Monday night tonight. Fantastic day. Today was my best trading day of 2020, and it's over now, so I'm not going to jinx myself, and I'm not trading after hours, so I can say that. But, very, very prepared last night. And as I said, the same market that, can steal all your money, for some of those guys that were maybe early last week on certain plays, things like that. If you come prepared, it's this market that you can make it right back. And hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully it's just you're able to, compound and really be able to make a decent chunk here. But that was one of the biggest things that I always expected about Eric Wood, whose birthday was yesterday. But one of the biggest things that I admired about him was that he could just bounce back just like that, right? So if he had a crappy, nasty loss the day before, that next day, it's that same ticker that he was right. He was just early on, and he's not afraid to get back in there because it's an A-plus trade. The reason he took the trade in the first place was it was an A-plus opportunity, but it just didn't work. Maybe he was a little stubborn, just like I'm a little stubborn sometimes, and, he stopped out. He got out. He lost. And then that next day, guess what? That loss is history, and then it's compounded even more because, that was the trade. That was the trade he was prepared for. So that was something I always admired about, how fast you could snap back. And that's probably the most important thing. And that's why I always tell you guys, today was a great day. Like I said, best of 2020. But you know what? That means nothing for tomorrow. If I come in and walk in like, nothing can stop me, and, I start trading like that, guess what? It's going to be the worst day of 2020. So just like if it's a good day, same thing with a bad day, you got to be able to reset, refocus, recenter, get right back in there and get ready to go. And, the only things, like I tweeted today, the only things that should really excite you is not the PNL. The PNL is just proof that, what you're preparing for, your setups work, right? If you're practicing and preparing for the proper opportunities, then you should expect that P&L. And so that's exactly where we were at today. Everything just worked out perfectly, no headaches. And I actually had one of the biggest single type trades as well, HTBX, which was on scan last night. HTBX was Sunday scan. As I noted, I was long from the mid-20s on Friday, and I was looking to potentially, trade that breakout. We're in the right market. It's about understanding what is running right now. So you had, 20, 30, 40 cent stocks going to $1, $2, $3 type moves. Now, I'm not looking to hold and hope that things are going to go to $1, $2, but the sooner that you can realize that there's a lot of volume here, it's an outlier day, outlier volume, potential breakout, all those things together, the better opportunity you're going to have in being able to capitalize, or at least getting a good portion, a good piece of the meat of the move. And so that's exactly what I did on HTBX, and they had a 6K or 8K, I think it was 6K, out this morning, and there was no PR at the time, so fabulous alert in the room ahead of most people seeing it. And basically what I did is I just added to my winner, and I actually did not lock in that part of the swing move. I traded it a little bit, but I did not lock in any of the swing move. I kept my average very, very low, and I just stayed in there, and I actually scaled in late day, kind of anticipating the potential rally, just like I tweeted as well. HTBX did the same exact thing on Friday, and it came back. If it starts to reclaim over that VWAP level, we might have an end-of-day runner. So the first sell that I had was actually at 74 cents, and I sold basically 73 cents. 73.1, 72.8, and then I sold a bunch more at 84, 84.08, 86, and then a little bit more at 83.5, 82. So, that's also very, very hard, right? I've held this entire time. I have a whole bunch, and you've held it this long, and what if it goes to 120? What if it goes to 140? And you know what? It is what it is, and it's possible that it keeps on going, but sometimes you just got to kind of look at how far it's come. It's sped up relative to how it was trading prior, and hopefully there'll be an opportunity that if it does start to kind of stay sideways and grind, maybe I can get back in there. Will I trade the same size that I had? Probably not, because I had a 24 average, and then I scaled in this morning, and I think I brought it up to about a 38 to 40 cent average, and on decent size. So that was my best single trade of the year on that one. And then we had a whole bunch of other stuff just start to compound. And, I was very cautious pre-market, but I started into a lot of different trades. The scan last night that we talked about, my goal was basically higher the better. Hopefully we get some gap ups. I think that we're going to squeeze out maybe a few of the weak hands, some people that kept it over the weekend. One of the things that I talked about last night was that I think that everybody left Friday very short, right? There was no real reason to cover, and everybody was kind of the mindset like, all right, it's finally done. We're finally, the virus names have finally cracked, and that's it. So let's unwind. But what I thought was we're going to have that one last hurrah and really squeeze out some of these traders. And so we woke up gaps across the board on everything, which was fantastic. And some I traded better than others, and some I missed completely. NVAX was my main goal today. My main goal on NVAX was basically a gap up and short the strength, short any parabolic type move, and then get short and scale and let that thing work. And even I said on scan last night, I think I could see it unwinding to 12 near term. And unfortunately that happened, right away. So let's take a look at some of these charts from today. NVAX, obviously, we got a nice little push right up, and the goal, like I said, was morning shove. So basically right into 730, we're coming in, and 1740s, 1750s is holding as a top. And then just completely unwinds. They dropped another 150 million at the market. So, last time they did that, they used it, pretty much the same day. They kind of laid into it. So obviously they're taking advantage of this market to, raise as much as they can. They had a shelf out there, like let's go, let's get as much paper as we can at these prices and give us the best chance in the future, because I think they've got maybe another trial at the end of the year. I don't even remember at this point, but there's so many of them going on. But at some point they're going to need to raise, and if they can do it in this market at these crazy prices, then it makes sense for them to do that. So I only traded a little bit of a rebound on this one. Again, one thing that I said in the room, if the trade happens, you miss it, the worst thing you can do is just emotionally, I'm going to chase it, I'm going to go, and then it rebounds back up, and you end up getting emotionally attached to it, emotionally worked out, and you screw up. So basically my focus today was alt. I started to dabble in there just a little bit, and I always like to dabble a little bit. Sometimes when I post these charts on Instagram, things like that, people say, why did you add, and why did you do this, and why did you what were you risking to, and all that kind of stuff. Every single arrow is not created equal. Okay, so you need to, at least for me, I have to start in, dabble a little bit, dabble, and then as the trade progresses, as we see in this case, we see it kind of come down and start to get heavy at this VWAP level. At that point, I can start to scale into the winner, and that's exactly what I do. So basically, I got in there in the 440s to 4 range, scaled in a little bit more, 370s, 380s, 360s, flushed out at the open. It was starting to go a little bit sideways. This little jolt here in the morning kind of threw me off a little bit. I was like, are they going to try to trap this thing, or what's the deal? And they ended up, there was a bid there. It went away. It will get hit, and that was it. So I sized down a little bit, but I resized back in, resized down again, covered the flush, rescaled around the core, and then took off the full trade right here. That's the meat of the move. That's my goal. My goal is not to, get top, get bottom, but scale in, scale out around the meat of the move, and that's exactly what happened. Ended up being the lows over here. Worked out really, really well. Another one, APT was another one which probably would have been my second top pick for a trade. I actually did put that as my second top pick, on scan last night. It was the second one under my main watches. But I just was trying to be patient with the entry this morning. I missed it. It flushed out. I didn't feel comfortable getting in there on the short side with such big range. So I just said, the hell with it, and I looked for other opportunities. So this one, I only traded it into the late day shove. This is what I consider a reactive trade. So as I sold the room, I was looking to basically trade into 1750, 18s, any push that ends up with a nice stuff move. And that's exactly what we got. That's exactly what I did. So alt was one of my better trades. APDN was, APT was so-so. APDN was fantastic. And again, these are all the same thesis. These are all virus type stocks. And I like to spread it across many. I can trade many stocks at once as long as I'm on the right side. And I don't have a problem scaling across many. I can do a lot of things at once. I'm very good at multitasking as long as I'm not on the phone. So that's why I was able to trade so many at once today. It's just because everything it was the right side. Everything that I did, it was good entry and immediately on the right side of the move, so I could focus my attention to other things. So APDN, gap up parabolic, guess what? Newsletter went long. Yeah, I'm interested because now all kinds of sheep are all buying at the same time. We get that free look, like I call it. You get a free look at what's going to happen or what did happen as soon as all that volume came in. Guess what? It didn't budge. So if it doesn't budge, where is all that volume that just came in the offer going to go? It's going to go on the bid. So that's exactly what I did and got there, covered into the flush. So basically, nice 660s flush down to about 540s or so. So that was fantastic. The way I started my day this morning was BIOC. And this is actually just a very minimal trade here. And I can post this after. But BIOC this morning shorted a whole bunch at E-Trade. And I shorted some here. I had a wish order just to cover some to potentially rescale. But unfortunately, I obviously covered some. But got a good portion of this. So basically shorted 109, 110s and covered the majority in the 50s. And the same thing on E-Trade. Let's just take a look here. BIOC. So I shorted 106, 105, 104, 103, 111, and I covered at 50 cents, and then I covered the rest at 46 later on in the day. So that was how I started my day. And so that one gave me a huge padding to be able to really risk and let things work throughout the day, which is also why I had so much patience on HTBX, right? Normally on that first push, I probably would have been half size. But because I was set up so well with BIOC this morning and I was up so much pre-market, I said the hell with it. I'm going to let HTBX work. It's what's working in this market. I'm going to give it a chance. I have a good average. Let's see what happens. As long as it doesn't break down and overall the flushes stay thin. And when I say that, I get a lot of questions. What do you mean, right? So if something flushes out and then it comes back, it stays heavy and heavy and heavy, and it kind of pulls back, but it keeps on making lower lows, that's heavy. But whereas it flushes out, comes back, and then it starts to kind of grind back up, flushes out, grinds back up, that's what you want to see, right? It should have died, and it didn't. And so that's why I was confident with the HTBX trade. We also get the maximum $1 reiteration midday as well. So we had that. We had CODX. CODX, I got in there a little bit in the 20s. And you know what? To be honest, I was actually a little nervous on this one because I was in my head preparing for 22 to 25. I'm like, man, this thing is like way too strong. Like, why is it holding up so well? But the reality is the SSR was on, right? So people see it flush down, and then they kind of show their hand, right? SSR, you're not allowed to hit the bid. So basically everybody kind of chases it down. They don't realize sometimes that the SSR is on. You show your hand, everything goes on the offer, kind of chases down the bid, and so they can kind of play around with that a little bit, and they do. So I ended up basically getting short 50s down to 19s. I covered some just to kind of stay safe because I felt like I was maybe a little aggressive on it, but pretty much held, at least a half down to 17s and then got the rest down into the 14s. So good meat of the move. Once again, if you look at where it was pre-market to the lows and where it came back, got the meat of the move. That's the goal. I'm not trying to be a hero and hold it from dead top to dead bottom and then wait till end of day to see what happens. No, I just want the meat of the move, and I'm not looking to kind of press my luck on these types of trades. So again, great opportunity there. IBIO was amazing. So actually got the top tick there, 265. I shorted into the strength, and my order was left open. I got a decent chunk, but again, it's SSR. So you were left with, actually, was it SSR at the time? I think it was. I think that's why it was hard. Yeah, it was under SSR. So when I went, I became the offer. And so whatever I got swiped on was my fill. And so I covered some along the way, started to scale in. And I also had a trade in E-Trade as well. Pretty much mimicking the same kind of trade thesis. And that was 283s, 280s. I shorted, so at 841. So that was where are we? 283. Oh, that was 841 and 935. And so I shorted 283, 282, 255, 257, 256. And then I started to scale in here, over here, covered some on the flush. You can see it flushed out, came back, shorted, and at this point, what do we talk about? We talk about using the VWAP as a guide. So I shorted, and basically I'm not emotionally connected to this line, right? I'm sizing in with a risk, or with enough size, with as much size as I'm comfortable with, versus that line, over and under. Not a hard stop, but just using it as my guide so that I'm not emotionally connected. Because the worst thing I want, that could happen is it goes back up there, I get nervous and I cover, and then I'm right? So I want to be emotionally disconnected. So I basically just kind of scaled in, size. And then at this point, it cracked. So I put some at 217, 220s, just because I needed to size down. I had scaled up to way to a decent size, and then it flushed out, covered a bunch down there at the lows, and then I went ahead and moved on the trade there. I ended up putting some on over here and covered the rest right here. You can hardly see it, but there's a green arrow right there. Minimal trade on that second trade, but as you can see, I just kind of scaled, and based off of price action, it should have rebounded, it didn't, and how it was kind of reacting each time that it rebounded. And when it rebounded and it stuffed, instead of starting to base, that gave me more and more confidence. And then when the floodgates opened, we've learned all week, we need to be there. We need to be, one step ahead, right? Everybody is waiting for this thing to crack. If you're not covering on the flushes, then you're just going to be with everybody else. And when it rebounds, guess what? You're going to be covering up here. You're going to be covering into this push into the close, which I'm really happy with my covers. It literally bounced almost 80 cents off of my covers. So this was my biggest trade, second to HTBX today. And then it was ALT. But other than that, we had some other good stuff. MRNA. Just had a reactive trade. Might not be able to see it too well, but I just traded it into this rip, into this flush. I think we're going to have some good stuff here in the coming days. But for right now, I think it's going to kind of hang around for a little bit. But once people stop thinking about it, I think we'll have a decent unwind. So those were the main trades for me today. NVAX and APT, I came with the main plan, a big plan to ideally, nail that, but I had to adapt because there was situation where it flushed out. I missed it. APT in hindsight, yeah, it would have been a fantastic trade, but I wasn't comfortable with it. So there's no reason to force something if you're not comfortable with it. And that's exactly where I was at today. So pretty much nailed everything. You know, I even tried DXC. No, not DXC. DXR. I actually got the low here, 1350s. I added some into it and ended up being basically an even trade. There was a couple other opportunities. AAL I traded. I bought the flush, and I ended up kind of scaling it a little bit, scaling out, re-adding, and then I sold into the ramp over here. I also put on a swing, so I put on a swing right over in this level, and I'm currently long that one as well. DEAC swing trade had a nice little rebound today. That one you guys know if you paid attention last night. And I think that's about it. VNNT closed at the highs. I actually put a tweet out this weekend. This is a very low volume one, but what I was explaining was E-Trade has this lending program, right? So if you're trading an IRA, you can actually loan out your shares. So I was getting, they might take your whole position, they might take only a piece of it. So say you've got 1,000 shares. In this case, they loaned out 400 shares for me, and they were paying me $123 a day to borrow those shares. So somebody else is paying, you know, $100 a day to be short. Meanwhile, you know, it's nice when it's going up, but this is a very high cost borrow for a lot of people right now, likely getting squeezed, low volume, but it's just an interesting kind of opportunity. So, CPHI. CPHI, this was another one. I also traded this in E-Trade too. I did cover it at about 115, 117 at the close. I was hopeful for maybe some type of unwind, but for the most part, again, reactive trade. Shorted into the rip, covered into the flush. And again, meat of the move, and meat of the move. And you can see here, I wasn't trying to scale or have FOMO of missing out this crack. Instead, I'm looking for where was the prior resistance. You know, you can just draw a line across. You can see where it had peaked out before, ramps into that level. If it starts to get stuffy, and what I mean by stuff is basically it ramps up, a bunch of volume comes in, and you see a bunch of volume go off, but the offer doesn't budge. If that starts to happen, I'm interested, because now you know you've got some inventory. In the event that it continues to go, you've at least got some inventory that they've got to work through, and you can potentially get out. But I always like to see sellers kind of step in with me. I don't want to be the only seller. You know, I'd rather be a small percentage of what's going on than be a big player in it, and then, you know, be up against the wrong person and they end up, you know, squeezing you. You've seen that on a lot of different names. There was a couple other opportunities, AHPI, but you know, I didn't even touch it. You know, there's certain ones you got to be comfortable with, and I felt more comfortable with the higher volume, better action, and you know, that's what it's all about. You should be comfortable with the trades that you're taking. So let me just take a double look and see if there was anything else worth talking about. TTNP was pretty good today. That was another one on scan last night. And pretty much closed towards the high, so that was a great opportunity as well. But that's about it, guys. So if you have any questions, you know the drill, reach out. Busy day in the room, but like I said, right back at it tomorrow. So you know, this is a great market right now, and I have just no interest in trying to swing these things, right? We're going headline to headline. We were up 1,200 points, whatever we were in the market today. You know, I'm kind of expecting that. I'm expecting a 1,000-point rebounds here and there. But I just don't think we're going, you know, right back up. I also don't think we're going too much for. I think we're going to be sideways for a little while, as I noted on Twitter last night. So as great as this rebound was, I think the faster we snap back, the faster we go up, the worse it is for, you know, the next pullback, because there is panic, but there just isn't enough panic, right? Things are not staying down for very long anymore. But I don't care really where we go as long as we have opportunities. And any day that the market's 3, 5, or in this case 1,000, 1,200 points, we're going to have opportunities. So the last piece I would definitely suggest, even some of the guys in the room today, they're trying to figure out MRNA, figure out APT. What do you think here? What do you think here? And it's in like a 20-cent range. There's no sense for that right now. There's no sense trying to figure out which way something's going to go or anticipate it. All you need to do is let it do it and then join that trend. Because if you're in the business of trying to figure out or guess which way it's going to go, you're either going to be right or wrong, which is 50-50. And if you are wrong, you just wasted all that time, when you could have done something else. And I talked about that on Scan yesterday. APT, I spent a lot of time in it on Thursday when I could have been covering all those flushes, right? And there's opportunity cost. Where else could I've been focused, right? There was so many opportunities that we could have been trading, but instead, it wasn't good enough to take $2 or $3 flush. I was looking for more. Sure, it came today, but I was trying to take my own bias and make it the trade. And instead, I ended up turning, a couple buck win into a couple buck loser. And, so that was that. So anyway, stay safe out there. We've still got a lot of range. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Basically, this is what I do every night for members. So, we go over the scans or the trades for the day. Winners and losers. Today obviously had a lot more winners than losers. I lost on AAL first. I was a little early, but I was sized properly, right? As I said, a very, very minimal position, right? So if I wanted, say, 10,000 shares, I was in 500 to 1,000 shares on my starter. The other one, BIMI, turned into basically nothing. It was kind of like a grind out for me. But that was pretty much it for me today as far as losers. So that was pretty good. A couple other just kind of grinders. But for the most part, fantastic day. Best day of 2020 for me. But like I said, tomorrow, next, none of that matters. And the more excited you get about P&L, it's great. It's good, and you should have a high five moment and tell your good buddies, whatever. But the faster you can reset, the better you're going to be, because so many new traders get so excited on a day like this week or last week where it is a good market, and if you do nail it, you do make a lot. But that goes away so fast if you don't recenter yourself. It goes away fast. So the faster you can pretend that it never happened and get back to business, the better trader you're going to be. So that's it. Catch you guys in the room. Leave a comment in the comment section if you have any questions, and we'll see you out there.